If you want to learn how to have insanely high solo carry impact on Reinhardt and dominate enemy Reinhardts with Earth Shatter plays that simply hard carry you from one rank to the next, then you've definitely come to the right place, because in this video I'm going to be VOD reviewing this insane game I had on Reinhardt so that I can walk you step by step on how to perform these things on Rein so that you can take it right into your games and you can start popping off in each and every game you play on Reinhardt. If you like Rein or tank content in general, definitely smash that like button and let me know in the comments down below so that I can start chaining out more VOD reviews just like this one. With all that being said, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So kicking it right off the bat, I already have some pretty powerful tips for you to start implementing in your games. Notice how when I fire strike, I tend to slide it right along natural cover. The reason I do this is it allows me to get the maximum amount of surprise damage. It makes it harder for enemies to actually dodge it. This is something that I'll do often because frankly, getting more fire strikes on Rein, more impactful fire strikes means faster ultimates. It allows you to build that Princess ult charge, and your Earth Shatter is the easiest way to have individual carry plays on Reinhardt, especially in the Rein v Rein mirror. It's one of the most important things that you could be doing on Rein. So lining up your fire strikes with natural cover is one of the easiest ways to get damage across on the enemy, and it's something that you should be doing in each and every one of your games right away. Now the next thing I do is something that I really need to explain to each and every one of you, because this is probably the biggest problem for the vast majority of Reins at the lower ranks. Notice how I really push up here and take this space. The vast majority of my teammates are dead, but I'm still holding the space here, and I do it for a number of reasons. The biggest reason is that I want to contest this space. I don't want to give it up for free, and I want to put pressure on the enemy. If I don't push up here and I don't hold this space, my healers and DPS are literally at the whim of the enemy. Now, playing the space, it allows my DPS and my healer to get into better positions. And because I push up here, my Ana gets quite a bit of ult charge. She manages to get asleep on the Rein, and I see a really easy opportunity to shatter 4 people, securing this team fight. Now we get to fight them right at doors instead of waiting all the way. If I would have pulled all the way back, I would have gave the enemy time to get to the high ground. I would have gave the enemy tons of space, and we never would have had the potential to win that fight. Even if my Ana didn't hit a sleep dart, I still have an opportunity to make a big shatter play. The important thing to understand about this is, as a main tank, it's your job to hold space. If you have some sort of sustain, some healers, and you have a way to punish enemies for pushing up too aggressively on you, you definitely need to claim space as a main tank. Don't let the enemy get into the amazing positions that they want to be. If they have time, they can get to the high ground, they can push up on your team, they can ult you first. These are all things that you don't want, so that's really why I pushed up here, and it's something that you need to learn how to do on Rein. It's something that you need to start doing instantly. Don't be afraid to push up and take space as long as you have a number of allies with you. It's really, really important. Now moving on to this next section, I actually managed to get an insanely high impact shatter here, and I'm going to show you some of the reasons why I got it off. The first thing that I need to know is I need to know exactly how much ultimate charge the enemy Rein has. I know that he used his shatter and got no value earlier on, so I know he doesn't have it. I don't have to play around it. So what I'm ultimately trying to do is trick him or bait him into actually pushing it too aggressively on me. The way that I do this really distinctly is I actually bait him in by allowing myself to take a certain amount of damage. Notice how I get really weak there, and I'm pushing up slightly to the left of the cart. I kind of get into a tempo, putting up my shield, walking forward, putting up my shield, walking forward. Now, what I actually execute here is something that I do in slow motion. Notice how I actually fake a shield up, instantly drop it, and shatter. The reasoning that this is so powerful is the Rein thinks that I'm going to just be doing the same static motion that I've been doing each and every time. This mix-up is unpredictable. It's not something he expects. On top of that, the fact that my health is low and that he can easily push up to me, these are two of the reasons why he actually pushes up aggressively on me. He wants to swing in, he wants to put pressure, he wants to build ult charge, but I managed to actually use all those factors against him by actually disrupting the normal cycle of the way that I've been doing it over and over again. I actually execute a mix-up on the enemy Rein, and I really shatter him here. I also use the natural cover of the cart, because something really important that you might not know. You could shatter enemies straight through the cart, and you could use the cart to actually kind of block part of your body, so it's harder to see exactly what you're doing. It's harder to read your movements, things like that. All these factors combined are things that you need to take into account, and I'm going to show you more examples throughout this video because I actually shattered this Rein a whole bunch of times. Each and every one is slightly different. Each and every one can be using different ways, because ultimately how you execute an Earth Shatter is a mixture of mixing up your tempo trying to predict what the enemy wants to do and trying to build a plan to actually land your shatter and block the enemy shatter at the same time. This one was way easier on me because I didn't really have to think about blocking the enemy shatter because I knew he didn't have it. But in another example I'm going to show you in a little bit, I actually have to block his earth shatter and then also shatter him as well to win the team fight. And that one's really important for you to see, so definitely keep watching and you're going to learn exactly what you need to do to win the shatter war each and every time. Now, if you want to see even better Rein VOD reviews than this one, I'm actually breaking down San Francisco Shock's Super Rein VOD review so you can see all the tips and tricks from an Overwatch League pro. I'm going to break it down for you on GameLeap.com, so definitely go check it out. You won't regret it. Now, I've already explained how important it is to actually track the enemy REINHARDT's shatter, and I know he has it here. And the reason that it's important is because not only is it my job to block it, but there's certain things that I can never do if the enemy REINHARDT has shatter. The biggest and most egregious one is you can't fire strike right in front of an enemy REINHARDT when he has earth shatter. The reasoning for this is if you try to fire strike when the enemy has shatter, he can actually respond to the fire strike animation and instantly shatter you. So that's something that you definitely need to avoid in all of your games. Do not fire strike when the enemy Rein has shatter and make it your priority to track his ult charge. All that being said, I managed to actually completely dominate this REINHARDT here. Let's break it down in slow motion. I'm going to explain my thought process and each and everything that I took into account when trying to execute the shatter that frankly hard carried this entire fight. I'm going to be realistic here. Let's just jump right into it. Now, the first thing that you need to keep in mind when trying to execute a shatter is there's actually more things that you need to play around than just the enemy REINHARDT shield. Your shatter can easily get blocked or interrupted by things like CC or Zarya bubble. Luckily for me, the enemy has no CC, but I have to make sure that the Zarya doesn't have either her cooldowns. Something that I take into account is that the enemy Zarya has both used her self bubble and she's used her team bubble on her REINHARDT. Check right here how I managed to actually bait the Rein into trying to shatter me. Notice how right here I act like I'm going to swing in, and the second I start the swing animation, I instantly shield up. This is an animation cancel, and what it looks like to the Rein is that I'm actually going to commit a full swing here and he can get a shatter in, but I'm purposely doing this to bait him. I basically start the swing animation, instantly cancel it with the shield up, block his shatter, and instantly counter shatter the enemy Rein. There's a lot of things in my favor when pressing this Q, and while it's not going to be 100% of the time I land the shatter, it's pretty likely and it looks incredibly flashy. I mean, I block his shatter, shatter his whole team. There's nothing better than to do that on Rein, so I really think that this is important to learn from. This is a really important thing that you could take into your games. Try to understand the things first that can stop your earth shatter. Then try to mix up your tempo and act in ways that are opposite of what you think the enemy is going to think that you're going to do. I know that this is really kind of obvious, but there's a lot of different ways that you can actually do one thing or make it seem like you want to do one thing, but you're really just looking to pull off the shatter. You know, honestly, a lot of low-ranking Reins have this problem where their team will get a giant grab and the Rein will just go ham and just swing into it, but the enemy Rein will just shatter his whole team. Now, if you act like you're going to swing really hard into a grab and then you instantly shield up, that's how you block tons of shatters. The same way with Nano. You get Nano, and a lot of times you can actually use Nano to bait out a slam, and I'm going to really break that down later on because I do that later on. Basically, the more incentives that are stacked on you doing one thing, the more your enemy is going to think that you're going to do that, and that's when you can mix it up. I know that this is not really a hard and fast rule, but the thing about earth shatters is you're just trying to up your percentage on them, right? It's not like you're going to hit every single earth shatter. That's impossible. But if you hit way more than the enemy Rein, you give your team so much higher of an advantage and you win tons of team fights. You sway the ultimate economy in your team's favor, and you can just see by the results here just how powerful it is, and you should do it in each and every one of your games. So now we're going to transition to something kind of dumb that I do on Rein, but it's something that you can actually learn from because the concept's still there. Notice how I'm actually pushing forward. I get the Nano here and I pin this Rein. I instantly get my Shatter and I 180 this Mora. Now, you might be wondering why I did this, but I knew that there was multiple enemies behind me and I wanted to make sure to secure kills for the team fight. The enemy Zarya ends up getting 2 kills. If I wouldn't have gotten that Shatter there, it could have been really bad for my team. Then notice how I immediately turn and face the enemy. This is to block them off, prevent them from pushing through and protecting their Mora. This almost assuredly secures the kill on the Mora. I'm not just going to turn my back to the enemy because I don't want to give the enemy Rein an opportunity to shatter. I didn't know for sure if he had it there. I needed to be playing around it at all costs. But this is a rather silly example of something that you can do in your games is you don't always have to try to shatter the Rein and people behind the Rein. You can often mix it up and just try to secure a couple of shatters and prevent your team from getting shattered, and that's usually enough to win a team fight in itself because a shattered enemy on the ground, and as as long as you don't get Shatter yourself, you're usually going to guarantee at least one pick from your Shatter. It's better than getting your Shatter blocked. Essentially what I'm saying is you don't have to be that greedy with REINHARDT's Shatter. I mean, it's a really fast building ultimate and it has the potential to secure tons of different kills. Now, the dream is to block the enemy Shatter and shatter the whole enemy team, but the reality is usually getting 1 or 2 kills in the mid fight and blocking the enemy Shatter is enough to carry the fight in itself. You don't always need these 6-man Shatters. You don't always need to be that greedy. Sometimes you could just secure a 1-person Shatter like I did. This is a really silly example. I was just kind of trying to be flashy with the 180 Shatter, but you get the idea, and that's really why I want to break down this point to you. Now, moving on to the attack round, I want to really show you how balancing your shield health with your base health is the most important thing that you need to learn how to do on Rein. Notice how I'm pushing up, swinging at the enemy, putting pressure in, reeling back with my shield when I need to get heals, and rinsing and repeating. The idea behind this is, as long as I have shield health, I can allow my team to heal me up and do damage from behind my shield. But I want to make sure that I'm pushing up aggressively and I'm actually taking raw damage as much as I can without feeding, but I'm still pushing up and I'm still creating value and space. Now, notice how I actually get this Shatter off. Me and this Ana completely carry. She nanos me here, and that's a big part of this. But I instantly shatter 2 people in a fight that looked like it was going to be lost. Then I climb upon the car. I swing on the enemy Doomfist while he passes me by. He doesn't even do damage to me. And frankly, this split-second decision-making, the fact that I pushed up so aggressively, I got all this ult charge, it allowed me to really carry this fight pretty fast. It allowed me and the Ana to actually carry this fight, and that's something that's really important. I balanced my base health with my shield health almost perfectly here. I pushed up just aggressively enough to build my ult charge incredibly fast. And I got my ult so fast that the enemy wasn't even playing around it. I used it to secure 2 quick kills, turn this team fight, and it was a really easy team fight win simply due to fundamentals. Now, right after we take that point, I'm going to do my job as a main tank, push up aggressively, take space. This is exactly what I talked about before. But I managed to find a wild streamer, completely AFK, and I know that this is going to kill me, but I pin him against the wall and we both die. Smash that like button if you think that this was worth it for the BM, because I frankly think it was. I rolled and smoked Moxie. Anyways, moving on to this next fight, I just swing into the enemy team. We get a Graviton, and one thing that I'm really aware of is the fact that the enemy Rein could actually shatter me here. I don't know that he doesn't have Shatter. He's actually a little bit off of it. We can see now in hindsight in the VOD reviewer that we know he didn't have it. But what I didn't do is I didn't full commit. I swung every once in a while, made sure that I could still block a Shatter, but once it was beyond the point of no return, beyond the point where if he shattered, it wouldn't even win the team fight, then I just full committed. I full committed a swing. We won the team fight pretty easily. I have another Shatter here, and now we're going up against another matchup against this REINHARDT, where he has a Shatter, and so do I. I'm going to try to do everything I can to try and win this team fight with my Shatter going forward. Now, in this next team fight, the enemy Rein manages to make a huge mistake, and I think it's because he didn't think I had Shatter. Notice how I get grabbed here, and I'm actually just looking to shatter just the Zarya, but the Rein puts his shield down as well, and it allows me to shatter him as well, and it really gets us a kill on both the Zarya and the Rein. Now, the thing that's really important to understand, and I think the reason that this Rein didn't understand why I had Shatter here, he wasn't playing around it, is when your team Gravitons, your Rein still builds up tons of ult charge. I mean, I got my ultimate so incredibly fast after winning the first fight. I got it straight up in the second fight because my Graviton by my Zarya. So that's something that's really important. If you lost a team fight in the past fight and the enemy Rein swung into it, you really need to be playing around the fact that they have Shatter. You need to be expecting that their Rein has Shatter, because I could have lost them the fight. They're lucky for them. They had enough ultimates such as Beat to actually turn that fight, but the enemy might not have even needed to use Beat if that Rein didn't completely misplay, because like I said, I wasn't even trying to shatter him. I was just trying to shatter the Zarya, get that solo pick that I talked about before. But the enemy Rein didn't actually think that I could have Shatter by then. Now, moving on to this next point here, I actually make another insane Shatter play, and I really want to show you how I force through the Shatter and I force through the impact of the Shatter. Now, I'm already going to push in here. I already know that my Ana has Nano. She's probably going to give it to me. But look at how I actually swing around this corner. I use natural cover to build up my ultimate without trying to push too far. Then I see that the supports are to the right side of this Rein. Even though the Rein can block my Shatter hypothetically, I simply target the enemy supports here. I shatter them both. Easy fire strike lineup, managed to kill both of them and the Rein. I get to clean up on the enemy extremely easy here. This was such a powerful play here. I really just kind of brute forced my way through this point. Now, unfortunately for us here, we actually managed to lose this team fight. I know, it's pretty crazy. Our Zarya died to the Junkrat. We lose this team fight. This is incredibly unfortunate for us, but we're going to actually get a chance to recontest this fight here. We're going to get another shot at taking this point. Now, we're in a situation where we have to cap in this exactly last fight, and I know that the enemy Rein has Shatter, so I'm doing my best to block it, and I actually kind of make a mistake here. I end up fire striking and moving myself to the side. I don't get Shatter, but my Zarya does. But what I do here is I actually body block for my allied Zarya. This is really powerful. I have the shield and health to spare, so that's something that I kind of do to make up for, you know, kind of messing up on the Shatter block here. Now, another thing that you need to take in when you play Rein, this is what you need to really pay attention to, is when you're swinging at multiple enemies, you need to be keeping in mind just how much ultimate charge you have. Notice how I went up incredibly fast from about 50% all the way to 100. I used my Shatter to secure one kill, but I use my Shatter the second I get it, and that just shows my awareness of what my ultimate's at. This shows how I play hyper aggressively when I'm close to ultimate, because I can chain it right into an ultimate play. This is exactly how I rolled through the fight before. When I had nano, I swung in really aggressively and I got my ult charge incredibly fast, made that really strong play. This is something that you need to start doing. Really keep track of what your ult charge is and how fast it's rising, especially when you're chain hitting multiple enemies. It can be a way that you instantly shatter the second you get it, and you can get value kind of out of nowhere when the enemy's not even playing around it. Now, if you want to see more videos just like this one, I'm actually going to be breaking down some Overwatch League pros such as Sado, Roar, and Super. So if you want to see pro players and you want to break down their thought process on how they pop off on Rein or other main tanks, definitely go check out GameLeap.com. I'm going to be pumping that content out on the regular, so do yourself a favor and go check it out. You won't regret it.